Hey guys, what's up? And today I'm going to be talking about the Los Angeles Clippers. And if they are still title contenders, though they have been off to a slow start this season and just blew a 20-plus point lead against the Golden State Warriors and Stephen Curry. Before I get into the video, I'm working on this Jacksonville Jaguars video that's going to be over 20 minutes. My videos are slow over the next week or two. It's because of that. I've already spent over 12 hours writing. It'll take probably about 20 hours to edit on top of the videos. Not even counting the videos that I'm editing right now. Also, if you could subscribe, that would mean a ton to me, as this is my dream job, and most people that watch these videos aren't subscribed. Now, to the video. The Clippers just choked a 22-point lead against the Golden State Warriors, and that really publicized the Clippers' struggles this season. Though Tyronn Lue's squad has started the season 6-4, this team doesn't look like last year's squad. The Clippers started the season with impressive wins over the Lakers on opening night and the Denver Nuggets on Christmas Day. On the win against the Nuggets, near the end of the game, Kawhi got accidentally elbowed in the face by teammate Serge Ibaka. I'm not going to show any image of that on screen because it looked that bad. That caused Kawhi Leonard to miss the game against the Dallas Mavericks. And, yeah, this was the halftime score. The largest halftime deficit of all time was broken in this game, the record, because the Mavericks were leading the Kawhi Clippers 77-27 after 24 minutes had passed. The final score of this game was 124-73. The Clippers were able to cover, winning their next two games against the Timberwolves and Trailblazers by 23 points in both games. Once the ball dropped for New Year's, the Clippers have been bad. The Clippers lost on New Year's Day to the Utah Jazz 106-100. In that win, even though PG was good on the defensive side, he went 6 for 22 from the field. The next game, the Clippers beat the Suns 112-107 in a game where PG did good efficiency-wise, but Kawhi went 4 for 21. In the next game, the Clippers lost to the San Antonio Spurs 116-113, and Paul George was out for that game. In the first game, the Warriors played the Clippers, and they won that game, with George as their leading scorer. In the loss to the Warriors, PG-13 didn't have a good offensive game. Have you noticed a trend here? Though Kawhi is their star player, this team depends massively on Paul George. If PG-13 is having a good game, then the Clippers will most likely win. But if he's having an off night, which he does often, the Clippers will lose. You could say this about any star player, but PG is more consistent than most, and that's what makes this a huge problem. This is one of the issues of the team I'm going to be talking about in the video. This team is too dependent on Paul George. He's a good player, but he's not the player he was a few years ago. Paul George was averaging over 26.1 points and 7 boards in wins, compared to only 21.6 points and 4.6 boards in losses. The big difference is in efficiency. In victories, Paul George has a .625% from the field, just field goal percentage. But in defeats, he makes .395% of his shots. For a team that is the second slowest pace in the league, this team needs to be efficient to win. The fact of the matter is that the Clippers depend too much offensively on an inconsistent player. For a player that is top 20 in usage rate in the entire league, PG needs to be more consistent for this team to be able to succeed in the playoffs. The next problem for this team is Lou Williams and the bench. In the 2017-2018 season, the Clippers were third in the league in bench points with 42.6 points per game. In the 2018-2019 season, the Clippers were first in bench scoring with 53.2 points per game, and first in 2019-2020 with 50.2 points per game. This season, Los Angeles Clippers are 19th in the league with only 34.5 points per game coming from the bench. Last season, Montrezl Harrell was the team's leading bench score with 18.6 points per game, but now he's gone to Los Angeles Lakers in free agency. Landry Shamet came off the bench for about half the games, and averaged about 9 points per game, but is now on the Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. A few key bench players from the Clippers left. That means that the Clippers don't have the depth that they used to have. And even though they still do have Lou Williams, he has pretty much been a liability this season. Lou Will has never been a good defender, but he was good because he got buckets. This season, he hasn't got buckets. Lou Williams is having the worst year in his career since his second season. Williams is averaging 8.9 points per game with 2 boards and 2.6 assists. Williams is also doing horrible from the charity stripe, going .714 from the line, down from the .861 he had last season. The bad part isn't even that Lou Will is doing bad on offense, it's that he's a horrible defender. Lou Will has been a horrendous defender this year and has a negative plus-minus. He's supposed to be their third best player, and he has a negative plus-minus. When Lou Will isn't making buckets, it's pretty much a 4 against 5 because of how bad Lou Will is on the defensive end, that he doesn't do much rebounding or passing. It isn't even just Lou Will, though. This bench is went from arguably the best in the league to a slightly below average bench. This bench doesn't have a single player averaging over 10 points per game. Another problem for the Clippers is just the offense. Last season, the Clippers finished 4th in the league in points per game with 116 points per game. It's led by Kawhi with 27 PG. The special thing about the 2019-2020 Clippers was that the Clippers had 4 players scoring over 18 points per game, with Kawhi having 27.1, PG 13 with 21.5, Trez with 18.6, and Lou with 18.2 points per game. This season, only 2 players have even more than 13 points per game, with Kawhi and Paul George both scoring over 23 PPG. Now the Clippers are 19th in the league per game, with 110 points at 6 points less and 15 spots lower. This offense doesn't have scoring depth past Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and without Kawhi, this team is nothing, and that was showed in the loss to the Mavericks earlier this season. This offense needs to get more depth. Paul George needs to get more consistent, and Lou Will needs to start making some buckets if this team wants a chance in the playoffs to win the title. But I do still think the Clippers are title contenders just because the league is pretty wide open this year for the title. And when you have Kawhi and PG on the same team, you're title contenders. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching the video. If you want to check out my latest video, that will be the first link in the description. Yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Be healthy, stay safe, and peace.